सो हेलो गाइस, दिस इज सिद्धार्थ सिंह भदौरिया और आज हम लोग सॉफ्टवेयर टेस्टिंग का दूसरा लेक्चर लेके आए हैं। तो इस दूसरे लेक्चर में बेसिकली हमारा टेस्ट प्रोसेस इन डिटेल्स हम लोग जानेंगे टेस्ट प्रोसेस को डिटेल में, हाउ वी एक्चुअली प्रोसीड फॉरवर्ड। तो अब तक के लेक्चर, जो पहला लेक्चर था वो जो इंट्रोडक्टरी लेक्चर था, उसमें हम लोग को ये तो पता चल गया है कि एक्चुअली सॉफ्टवेयर टेस्टिंग है क्या। So software testing is nothing, it is but the process of finding out the bugs or faults in our software. Like where our software is creating problem, that is what we try to find out, every possible error or fault in our software. So बात आती है कि how will we approach to find out the error. So this is what we are going to do, that what is our process, that how we are actually going to do testing. उसके पीछे का आइडिया जानेंगे आज के लेक्चर में। तो पहला सवाल जो मन में आता है कि टेस्टिंग तो करनी है, तो डेवलपमेंट फेज में जो भी पूरा प्रोजेक्ट बना रही होती है टीम, सो इफ आई आस्क दैट व्हाइल टेस्टिंग द होल टीम इन्वॉल्व्ड इन द प्रोजेक्ट, आर दे एन इम्पोर्टेंट कंट्रीब्यूटर? तो बेसिकली सबके मन में, हाँ सबके मन में यही आ रहा होगा कि हाँ दे आर अ कंट्रीब्यूटर। कहीं ना कहीं they will have the idea that how the software is, we are creating the software and where it can create error. So they have a role to play, they have key role to play in finding out the bugs. So इस process में उनका भी role एक होता है बहुत important. So now we are ready to move forward to dive deep into this testing process. So basically software testing process is divided into 4 phases. First phase is test strategy and test plan. इसमें तो as the name suggests कि टेस्ट के लिए स्ट्रेटजी बन रही है और टेस्ट प्लान की how we are actually approaching to form the test cases for our software. सेकेंड फेज में टेस्ट डिजाइन, टेस्ट केसेस का डिजाइन बनेगा, टेस्ट सूट बनेगा पूरा कि ये टेस्ट है, व्हेन विल एग्जीक्यूट द व्हाट एरर इट विल गिव, पूरा टेस्ट डिजाइनिंग वाला फेज, दैट इज द टेस्ट डिजाइन फेज. And the third phase, we will actually execute all the test cases we have formed in phase 2, that is designing phase. When the test case is executed, and after that, if our output satisfy the criteria, then obviously we will close the test and our software will be ready to be delivered to the customer. So first phase is test strategy and test plan. तो इस टेस्ट स्ट्रेटजी एंड टेस्ट प्लान के बारे में, so firstly we have to look that what are the fields where we can actually test, what are the fields where we can actually test, software तो बन गया. So now we have to look that what are the fields in the software, what are the things in the software where we can actually test, which can result in certain particular errors. We have to look into every possibility, customer can do anything, the user of that software can do anything, and error can generate it from anywhere. So that is, we have to found that any possible creation of error, we have to just get into that. So scope of this is the system which is being tested and any specific configurations of it. So basically we have created software बन गया, तो उस सॉफ्टवेयर को जहां पर रन करेंगे उसमें कोई ऐसी एरर या फिर उसकी कोई स्पेसिफिक कॉन्फ़िगरेशन, उसकी एरर की वजह से हमारे सॉफ्टवेयर में कोई एरर आ रही हो, जैसे तुमने सॉफ्टवेयर बनाया एंड लेट्स अज्यूम कि ओएस ओल्ड वर्जन है, दैट इज नॉट सपोर्टिव, so that can create error. So you have to look into all possible configuration of error. So you have to look into the specific configuration of that, in which our software is running. तो device को भी देखना पड़ेगा कि whether that is supportive or not. Features and functionalities, if you are running a product, if you are making a product, whose function is to add, and if it is subtracting, then it will give error. So we have to basically check the functionalities or the features of that project, some non-functional requirements, or we have the test approaches. So in test strategy and test plan, it also depends on the person, anyone can form test strategy. So it also depends on the person, who is forming that, how he can approach to form testers. He can start from very basic to hard, he can start from traditional approach or some modern approach, something like that. It will depend from person to person. For defects, like he can start for edge cases, for defect resolution. If you get any error, how he will proceed to remove that error to defect. Like he has to remove the error. So for like what key processes he is actually following. So for that we have to make a plan. And various tools used like Selenium or something like that, which are software testing applications, in which we, like if we are forming an software for Instagram, so we have to create a certain environment where we can actually log into our system, and then we have to check in that Gmail is in the correct format. So basically that is giving you a virtual environment which is not real, like which is just for a testing case we are going into that environment. Some applications are Selenium, Appium or something like that. So for logging defects, like when we're logging in or signing in, something for that, various tools used. So we have also make sure that those tools are not creating problem. Then we have to look into the documentation, like the documentation we have prepared. So we have to look into that, that there's no problem in that. As well as test environment also needs to be checked. That also we have to make sure that is not creating any problem in our test strategy and test plan. So all these factors which are mentioned, you have to keep all these things in mind, that they can be the reason of the failure of your test or the failure of your software. So you have to look in all these things listed in this page. So what you have to do, along with this, there are many other fields too. So you have to compulsorily look into all these fields, that they are not creating, they are not becoming the reason of failure of a software. So this is what you have to do in test strategy and test plan. So, and it's surprising that many projects, they have to change their plans significantly just because they didn't thought enough about their supported strategy. Like their OS is not supporting, or some driver is not supporting. So if deliverables are not of a specific level of quality, they won't enter testing. Like you have just made the software, but that is not of good quality, that is not working in the testing environment. At that point, obviously it will be vain, it will just go waste. So basically you have to make sure that the software you're creating, that is attaining certain quality. So you have to make sure of that. And similarly, if the tested code that doesn't meet the specific quality standards, then code will not move to the next phase or enter production. So basically, quality is, that should be your first priority. Testing, it will enter testing phase only when it is sufficiently in good phase to be entered. Like if it is not compatible with the operating system, if driver is not compatible with this, then how will it be executed in the customer's phase? Let us say customer is using Android API 26, customer is using API 26, and your application is not fit for that. What's the profit? So that is what you have to make sure, that it is fulfilling the needs of the customer. You have to make sure it is of certain good quality, so that it is running on every and each platform. So testing just aims to brush out any issue, कोई भी issue हो सकता है, to brush out any issue that could have been hidden, like जो छुपा रह सकता था, but just because of testing हमको उसको बाहर निकालना है. That is what testing aims at. अब टेस्ट स्ट्रेटेजी एंड टेस्ट प्लान बन गया है, कि वो जो ऑल फीचर्स थे, लाइक इन दिस लिस्ट ऑल द फीचर्स, यू हैव टू मेक श्योर कि इनके इनके फीचर्स में तुमको टेस्ट केसेस फॉर्म करने हैं. इसके बाद दूसरा फेज आएगा टेस्ट डिजाइनिंग का. तो टेस्ट डिजाइनिंग के फेज के लिए बेसिकली amalgamation, basically mixture of testing teams experience on similar projects over years. So जो भी टेस्टिंग टीम होती है, like they must have seen some products like these in the earlier phases. According to that, they have to make some test cases. Aim का क्या होता है, like उनका purpose क्या होता है of forming test. So at the early stages, their aim is to uncover the major bugs with the alpha beta testing. Like as we have seen in alpha, like the company which is producing, which is developing that software, they run in the safe environment, in the controlled environment, and beta customers use in real-time environment, and then they give the feedback to the company. So that can be any phase. So at the initial stage, they have to uncover the major bugs that are coming in the software. Like in Flipkart, some bugs can come in payment gateway or something like that. So their aim is uncovering major bugs, like the bugs which need to be removed. In the initial, you have to find out those major bugs. Your aim is not to just make the software completely bug free. Basically, it starts from ना कि बूंद बूंद करके घड़ा भरता है. So you have to start from uncovering major bugs, जो error problem create कर सकती हैं. You have to start from major bugs, and then slowly you will come at a stage where you are able to remove all the errors. Basically, that is not possible because like for all APIs or drivers, it is not possible to give facility to all those. Like if it is a smartphone, that will work only on a smartphone. It will not work on keyboard, like on key phones. So that is what you cannot make it completely bug free. Some bugs will be there, but you have to reach to that level that it is at that level of being bug free. So basically a test suite is basically the test cases, all the list of test cases. So basically a test suite at the beginning of product life cycle, that will be more towards testing fundamentals. Like we will start from the very fundamental test cases, and until unless we are very close to release the product, like we will start from very basic test cases. Like we have to actually tackle all that problems that can create error. So we will start from very basic, we will move to top. So you have to start from very basic and you have to make it harder each time, so that you are uncovering all the major bugs. And once we are very close to release the product, once we are happy to release a version of a project, like if it involves many features and you are launching one feature, at that point we will launch some more scientific test. At that point we will launch some more scientific test. So now like test suite, so we have to launch some more scientific tests for that, to uncover certain factors or certain bugs which are related to that section. So slowly it's a very, like it's continuous process where we have to slowly uncover all the errors or bugs. So like when we are happy to release a version to our customers, then we will employ more software scientific testing to make it bug free completely, as well as improving customers experience. Like user experience is the most important thing that any software company looks for. Like user should be happy, the user exposure, like the user interface, that should be slightly soothing or smooth, so that user will feel sticked to that software. So basically we have to improve customer experience, as well as we have to make our software bug free. So this is all we do in test design. Now when our test cases are ready, our plan was ready, it's time for the test execution. So we have to understand the test environment requirement clearly at this point. Let's take an example. If our application that depends on integration with the system backend, like it requires system backend to display some information of notification to customers. Like if इसको जरूरत है ही backend की, system के backend की, to show some notification to the customer, to show some information to the customer, at that point you will have to provide the backend integration to support all the meaningful functionality tests. So basically, if functionality test के लिए तुमको backend का support देना compulsory है, so you will have to provide that. So that is what we are saying. Like if backend support is necessary, you will have to provide that. So that is we are doing. At that case, our test environment needs to provide backend integration to support all the functionality test we have to do. Okay, so now planning done, test backend support done. So now we want to give green signal. उसके लिए green signal देने से पहले, like before delivering our project or our product, so backend support के बाद you have checked your functionality. So in execution we have to keep our keen eye for the testing environment. टेस्टिंग इन्वायरमेंट देखना कि कोई इन्वायरमेंट ग्लिच तो नहीं आ रही है, फंक्शनैलिटी में कोई दिक्कत तो नहीं आ रही है. लाइक फंक्शनैलिटी चेक्स वी हैव टू डू. Bug proof products, like bug proof, like if any bug is coming you should be able to remove that. And error displaying techniques, like if something that cannot be handled, error should come that this is not the case in our software. So you have to make sure of all these things, environment se leke functionality checks. Like if it is for addition, it should not work for subtraction. Okay, so it should do what it is supposed to do. That is what the aim of our software. It should not do something else. So we have to do all these things in this test execution. We have to make sure that everything is working fine. And now once the test execution, so like if we have done all these things, like we have done environment functionality, we have tested environment, that environment is working fine, functionality checks are done. So most commonly integration tests are scheduled just after delivery sprints and before release. Integration tests are basically like you have to attach backend and front end together. So integration tests are scheduled just after delivery sprints, like when the delivery work is done, like the software is almost delivered and before it is released. At that point we integrate like front end and back end. At that point we see that how it is giving the functionality outputs. Then at that point, so at that point the testing team that can run a dedicated system integration test, like entire completely, it's time for complete system test, which will basically focus on how components are working from the backend to deliver the required functionality. In complete system integration test, it should basically run, just it should work for a customer, just it should work for a user. इसको वैसे ही काम करना पड़ेगा जैसे एक यूजर के लिए काम करेगी. So that is what we are doing in complete system integration testing. So app specific bugs will primarily be reported during the functional end bugs will come up during the integration test. So app specific bugs जो होती हैं, like their environment bugs or their app specific, like app specific bugs, it's not about functionality. The bugs keeping away the functionality things, they will all be reported during the sprints, like when we will developing phase, when we are developing that thing, when we are developing that product, at that point they will be reported. But the functional end-to-end bugs, like functional bugs, like if there is functional mismatch, it's not doing the same thing what what that is supposed to do, that will all come at the time of integration test, like the complete system integration test. While the app specific bugs, like version or something, OS or something related to API, they will be reported during the development phases, during the development sprints. So test execution is done. Now it's the time for the test closure. It's the last phase of the testing processes. So before completing this, for the test closure, three things must be satisfied. Pehla, 100% requirement coverage, which means all business and technical requirements, given or not given by the customer, they have to be covered by testing. Requirements, like when a person comes to buy a product, he has some requirements and you have to satisfy all those requirements. So before delivering the product, you have to make sure that all the requirements that has been mentioned, they should be fulfilled. First point. Now test case passing rate. So if all those requirements are completed, they are successfully passed, at that point you have made some test cases and you have to run all those test cases as well as the test cases given by the user which is purchasing. So when we run all those test cases, at that point 90% of the all test cases to be passed. That is basically best practice, like to really make a software run in a smooth way or making it good for the user. 90% of the all test cases, they should be passed. That is a nice practice to follow. And all the critical defects to be fixed, like the defects which can actually create errors, like array empty error, like array is empty and you are searching for index 0 or index 1, at that point it will create error. So all critical defects which are relating to this should be fixed. It is explanatory because if they're critical, they need to be fixed. So that is what you have to make sure, that all critical defects to be fixed. So these are all our three things which needs to be looked after before submitting before delivering your product. So remember that nobody can afford serious defects to remain unfixed when they are launching it to customers. So especially if the product handles sensitive information or financials. How can someone afford this? Because if it's involving the sensitive informations as well as also involving money, so at that point they can't afford this. So you have to make sure all these things, all these conditions are satisfied before you're delivering that product. So this is all for today's lecture, and enjoy and subscribe for more on this series of software testing. So today we have done testing process. Okay, we will come with limitations of testing and testing activities in the next lecture. So thank you so much from here. Meet you soon.